At this time, it's about 6:02. We want to be respectful of everyone's schedule and start this community forum off on time. First of all, I want to thank everyone for being here this evening. I wanted to share with everyone that the OWL is actually recording this community forum, and it will be rebroadcasted to WCTV so that the public will be able to see it. I'd like to take this opportunity to introduce myself. My name is Judy O'Connell. I am the Assistant Town Manager for the Town of Wilmington, and I am also going to be taking over as chair for the school building committee. I wanted to take this opportunity to recognize Dr. Glenn Brand, who is here this evening. Dr. Brand is still very much engaged with Wilmington and will be with us through the remainder of the school year and through the end of June. But I will be resuming those responsibilities on his behalf, and I'd like to take an opportunity to publicly recognize Dr. Brand and thank him for all of his efforts here with the community present. You are here for the Community Forum number 7 this evening on June 3rd, and at this time I would like to turn it over to Dr. Glenn Brand to take us into the agenda.
Thank you, Judy, and good evening, everyone. Again, Glenn Brand, Superintendent of Schools, and thank you for taking the time to join us in this important project for the community of Wilmington. This is part of the ongoing commitment with this project to make sure that our community at large is well aware of this important project. This is, as was mentioned, Community Forum number 7. And well over 60 meetings at this point in time since this project began, in which we have worked diligently to try and make sure that all recordings of meetings, agendas, minutes, and all presentations are accessible for anyone in the community who might be interested in following along. This project ultimately began with the submission of statement of interests to the Massachusetts School Building Authority in 2020. Yes, 2020, right during the time of the pandemic. But since that point in time, things have obviously continued to evolve to the point at which the district, in partnership with, of course, the town and the support of the then select board as well as school committee, moved forward with those submissions. Tonight we will continue with, Tonight we will be continuing with the effort to provide an update to the community on this project. Some of this you have heard perhaps before if you've been following along. We also recognize that people are joining this conversation at different points, and so we want to be sensitive and aware of that. But at the same time, provide this chance to bring the community up to speed with what is taking place and taking shape with this proposed project. The agenda is ambitious. It will cover a lot of ground, but you can see an overview here. We want to make sure that there's time given to provide an update to the community on the MSBA process and all of the schedule. This is a grant program and has a lot of deliverables that the team has been working hard to do to accomplish. So we get an update on that, and a large picture of where we began with this project, and really underneath that is a foundation where this project emerged and the respective needs that were collectively felt that this proposed project could accomplish. Provide the community with an update on the schematic design for the project, and really a bridge between the educational program plan. After all, I think we all need to remember that this is far more than just moving forward to try and bring online a new, shiny, modern school. But undergirding that is a commitment to providing an opportunity to enhance and improve elementary education in the town of Wilmington. We can talk more about that in time. An update on cost and the ongoing efforts by many for community outreach. A project like this, once we submitted to the Massachusetts School Building Authority and once we were invited in, a project like this certainly relies upon the hard work and contributions of many. I mentioned at the outset that the select board and the school committee at the time respectively authorized the then town manager Hull and myself to submit the statement of interest to the Mass School Building Authority. But once we got underway and once we were invited in, the town has obligations to bring on board different partners, exactly like took place for the Wilmington High School when this project broke ground a number of years ago. You can see the partners that are here: SMMA, Dorn Whittier, and Fontaine Brothers, who are instrumental in helping support this project. Of course, it goes without saying, the MSBA, the school committee, and last but certainly not least, the school building committee. And as I mentioned at the outset, this group of folks representing key stakeholders throughout our community have given so much of their time over the last number of years. It was not an exaggeration to say that the total number of meetings that this group has had is over 60. And while not necessarily has every one of these members been a part of all 60 of those meetings, that spans the work that has gone on behind the scenes working with this committee in trying to move this project forward. You can see the representation spanning both school and town employees, elected officials, and many other folks, including a large number of parent guardians and community members, which I think is really a fantastic feature and facet of this project to date. The process and schedule, as I mentioned, is really, this is a process that is guided by the MSBA, and any school community and any town that partners with the MSBA has certain deliverables and guidelines they have to follow. That would have been no different than the Wilmington High School. The project team that you saw just a few moments ago works hard to meet those deliverables. The folks that we have on board working on behalf of the town and the community are well aware of what's involved in such a process as this, and they are helping guide our work and the work of the building committee around making sure that those deliverables are met. Every time there's a deliverable, the building committee has taken a vote in public in the context of these meetings to help support our continual progress in the process. So the past, going back just briefly, but I think again important to do so because it's understandable. Sort of the question that still I know I hear from some, or we hear from some of the community, well, how did we get here and why are we? And here's what I think is important to remind everyone of. We operate a school district with 6 elementary schools. Yes, it's true right now that the Wildwood School is no longer in operation, but we still operate 6 elementary schools. And while the Wildwood was a school that was designated through this process as the school of priority need, it is indeed the case that all schools are of similar age and similar vintage. And so what that means is that they have similar needs. That by and large, with the exception of some building envelope repairs or renovations, the interior of the buildings, if you've ever been in them, resembles exactly what they were like when they were built. A time period obviously very different than where we find ourselves now. Through intensive assessment of those facilities, there were a number of upgrades that were identified. And I will bring note to this, that this was not just through the recent project work of this team, but also through the town's facilities master plan that was published in 2018. And if you were to go back and take a look at that document, it identified a number of areas of need and remedy, repair, and so on, not just for the schools, for all of our public buildings in town, but certainly the schools, of course, of interest to us and to this project. HVAC, plumbing, electrical, there's a long list of things. All of these are fully documented. All of these things have been captured in reports that are available online to members of the community if you're interested. As was mentioned though at the outset, the Wildwood was identified as the priority project. And we had to identify the Wildwood as the priority project because the MSBA was very clear that even though we were submitting multiple statements of interest, one school had to be designated, and collectively we felt that Wildwood was the appropriate designation for that given its condition. The process of the MSBA, because of the fact that we clearly signaled to them, with the support of the select board and the school committee in the application, as well as a special town meeting that was held in 2021, we clearly signaled that we were interested as a community, we were interested in the possibility of school consolidation. The Wildwood was the priority project, but we also, because of the needs of the other elementary schools, we clearly conveyed to the MSBA that we were interested in exploring school consolidation. And through that process, and a very careful and methodical process with the MSBA, we took a very close look at possibilities that included the enrollment that's seen here captured on the screen. There's a long back and forth process between the school district the town and the MSBA to take a look at our student forecasts. These are not numbers that were sort of randomly drawn out of a bowl with a bunch of enrollment numbers, but rather they were to take a look back in history and to take a look forward in consideration of other housing projects that might be known at the time of this submission and so on. And that's how we landed at these numbers. And you can see the enrollment numbers here on the screen, and that's what the building committee took a look at as they were exploring various options. The process, as I mentioned a few times, we won't go into great detail here, but this is an overview that shows you the process from beginning to end in a project like this. At many times, I know I and others have said that the MSBA usually suggests to a community that it can take upwards of 5 to 7 years from the time of application until you actually move into a renovated or new school facility. And that will, by and large, be the case should this project move forward with the anticipation completion date of 2028. And you can see the progress that we've made as we're working through what's called Module 4, or schematic design. And with that, I'll turn it over to Ronnie, here to my left, your right, who is here with us from
Dora Whittier. Thank you, Dr. Brand. So the first phase that we proceeded with here was including facility reviews and educational analysis. Along the way, we were ongoing working group meetings, public meetings where findings and updates were reported, and then the educational vision and the options were refined. A short list of options were then analyzed towards one preferred option with continued input from the community and stakeholders. It's important to note that cost estimates were also completed along the way at each phase. Funding votes are scheduled for June by MSBA, and then in the town in September of 2025. And with a passing vote, the project would then move into design and construction with the anticipated occupancy of a new school estimated to be around the fall of 2028. I'll turn it over to the town manager.
Thanks. So, the next one. The big picture is something I think it's important to take a look at. This is a breakdown of a map of Wilmington and of the 6 elementary schools that the town operated. One of the things that was determined during the evaluation process was the grade configurations, the number of transitions, the number of facilities might not have been the most efficient as the town could have set up. And unfortunately, we're not able to handle all 6 elementary schools at one time. So this solution focused on the north side. The committee did a kind of a ton of outreach, including putting off a scheduled vote for more than a month to do additional outreach to the community to make sure that we had as best a picture of the feelings of the community members to what would be the preferred option. And the preferred option that was voted on by the committee was the pre-K through 5 option at the north site. So this consolidated all those 3 elementary school sites into one site and eliminated the transitions on the north side of town. Next slide. I think the important thing to know is the town has not forgotten about the remainder of the elementary schools. In fact, we have a plan to, if the current project moves forward, to be able to fund a second elementary school that would consolidate the west side of town without the requirement of a debt exclusion in the a project that would happen in the mid-2030s. So at the end of those 2 projects, rather than have 6 elementary schools, a middle school and a high school, we would be left with 2 elementary schools, a middle school and a high school. So we'd have less facilities to have to worry about for purposes of maintenance. We'd limit the transitions on both sides. We'd be able to have modern elementary school experience for the kids on both sides of town, and be able to do it again with it. While a debt exclusion would be required for this particular school, the second school would not require a debt exclusion. So that's That would be the long-term plan for dealing with all these elementary schools.
Thank you. So in the first phase of the feasibility study, the design team evaluated the existing buildings and facilities and sites that were part of the project. Buildings, as mentioned earlier, were all of similar vintage with similar issues. Maintenance is staggered over the years, so some replaced components are of different ages at this point, but we did note several items: site circulation and drainage issues, the need for building envelope upgrades, such as better insulation at doors, windows, exterior walls, and roofs. Several accessibility issues, both on-site and within buildings. Tired and worn interiors and furnishings. Outdated and inefficient MEP equipment, such as antiquated controls. The educational challenges were also studied as part of that first phase. The district supports a wide range of students who currently have multiple transitions in the elementary years. There is a need for dedicated classrooms for differentiated instruction. There's no designated science and computer spaces for STEM. There's limited dedicated workspaces for service providers to meet with students. There's limited time and spaces for staff collaboration and combined professional development. And then accessibility throughout the buildings. In summary, the facilities are maintained and currently operational. However, it's inevitable that the infrastructure upgrades may be limited without a major project to meet current codes and ideally the vision for Wilmington. The next step was to define the project needs through a series of 8 visioning sessions with over 50 participants representing the district and community, administrators, staff, town representatives, seniors, parents, and even students. We developed a summary of spaces for a proposed project that would meet both the building and educational needs for each enrollment. We identified and explored 18 options on 4 different sites. The school building committee's goal at the end of the preliminary design program phase, or PDP, was to shortlist those 18 options. In the preferred schematic phase, the 9 shortlisted concepts were then further developed and evaluated. At the end of the feasibility study phase, a consolidated pre-K-5 option located at the North Intermediate site was selected as the preferred grade configuration to move forward with. In schematic design, we then further developed that preferred option. The design team updated the site plan based on feedback that was received from the school building committee, site and landscape working group, police and fire departments, and the butters. This plan shows 193 parking spaces that would be provided on site. Refinements to this site plan included an improved buffer at the property lines with berms and screening, relocation of the turnaround to the north side of the site, improved distance of amenities at the property lines, and this includes relocating the upper grade playground and amenities closer to the U8 field, so more centralized in the site. That would also improve security for students so that they wouldn't have to cross any of the access roads. We were test fitting additional basketball courts and the U8 sized open fields around the site if that was desired for the project. And then continuing to look at pinch points near walkways and the property lines. So for anyone that's new, I'll just do a quick. What you're looking at here is Salem Street and Ballardvale Street. The existing building is located in this section of the site. And then we would propose this building on the northwest portion of the site where the fields are currently. This would be a 3-story building. There would be access routes from Salem Street and also Ballardvale Street with parking on site. And then here you'll see the elementary playgrounds and the upper elementary playgrounds here. And your main entry point would be right here at the southeast corner of the building. For site circulation, we originally looked at 2 versions, having buses and vehicles either coming from Salem Street and Ballardvale Street. And after looking at different options and then considering all of the feedback that we received, we have allocated for more queuing space on site, and that's definitely the intention from an operational standpoint, is knowing that we are bringing so many more students to this location and how to take those vehicles off of the site, or off of the streets and onto the site. And so you'll see that vehicles are accessing the site from Ballardvale Street, and they would queue on this access road that goes behind the building with a circulation route with the turnaround, and then coming back around to drop off students in front of the building, and then exiting out back onto Ballardvale Street. And then you have Salem Street where the buses would enter, and they would come and use the front loop and then come back around and exit back onto Salem Street. Right now, we're looking at about 80 vehicles that would be queuing on site, potentially more as we continue to further develop this. And then buses would have about 12 buses that would be located right on the site as well. The floor plan was further developed as well as we had more discussions with the school district, working through the different programmatic elements that are included in the project. But at the end of the day, it's a 3-story building for pre-K 5 students. Each grade has their own community, and they're distributed over 3 floors. Pre-K and K are located on the first floor, grades 1 and 2 are on the second floor, and your grades 3, 4, and 5 would then be on the third floor. We also look at it from a point of security, and so the building is split into 2 zones. The public zone, as you see as blue on the screen, those are your larger spaces, such as your cafeteria, gymnasium, the library space, the more public spaces, if you will, as well as the administration. And then the pink color is your academic wings, and those are your grades pre-K through 5 and their support spaces that are needed. So as part of the project to help you understand the vision of this proposed project, we've developed some imagery, so I'm going to share that with you here. The proposed pre-K 5 school, it's intended to be a foundation of education and community, providing a structured environment where students gain knowledge and develop skills and build meaningful relationships. The site design plays a crucial role in ensuring safety by designing secure, accessible, and well-organized environments for students, staff, and visitors. Thoughtful layouts with clear sight lines, controlled entry points, and emergency preparedness features enhance security and supervision. The building integrates into the fabric of the community, reflecting its character, values, and needs. Through the design, it complements the surrounding environment, fostering a sense of belonging and connection. And by serving as a hub for the engagement, learning, and collaboration, it strengthens its community ties. The building is designed with durability and longevity in mind, utilizing quality materials for lasting performance. Design and material selections will minimize maintenance needs while withstanding the demands of time, climate, and daily use. By prioritizing sustainability and structural integrity, the building remains a reliable and enduring asset for generations to come. Beyond the classroom, the school serves as a community hub, hosting events, supporting families, and encouraging civic engagement. Outdoor classrooms and play areas foster growth through diverse learning opportunities while promoting social development, inclusivity, and teamwork. The school entry space serves as a welcoming gateway that sets the tone for a positive and inclusive learning environment. It creates a safe, organized, and accessible transition between home and school, fostering a sense of security and belonging. The school cafeteria is more than just a place to eat. It fosters education, community, and promotes social interaction, inclusivity, and healthy habits. It also serves as an informal learning space where students develop communication skills, cultural awareness, and a sense of belonging. It serves as a gathering space for assemblies and performances. Additionally, the cafeteria is a home base for the widely attended CARES program before and after school. The school gymnasium is a vital space that supports education and community by promoting physical health, teamwork, and school spirit. It provides students with opportunities to develop skills, motor skills, discipline, and lifelong fitness habits. Beyond sports, the high school-sized gym serves as a gathering space for assemblies, performances, and community events, fostering a sense of belonging with school and community pride. By encouraging collaboration and healthy competition, it enhances social skills and contributes to students' overall well-being and personal growth. The school library is a cornerstone of education and community, providing a dynamic space for learning, exploration, and collaboration. It fosters academic growth by offering access to diverse resources, encouraging literacy, critical thinking, and independent research. Through its welcoming atmosphere, it nurtures a lifelong love of learning and discovery. The school classroom is the heart of learning, providing a structured environment where students engage in education, collaboration, and personal growth. It supports academic development through interactive teaching, critical thinking, and hands-on learning experiences. Beyond academics, the classroom fosters a sense of community by encouraging communication, teamwork, and inclusivity among students and teachers. Preschool and kindergarten extended learning areas are nurturing spaces that support early education and community. They provide safe and engaging environments where young children can explore, play, and build essential skills in communication, problem solving, and creativity. Through interactive activities and group experiences, extended learning areas encourage collaboration, empathy, and a sense of belonging. Extended learning areas support academic development through interactive teaching, critical thinking, and hands-on learning experiences. And beyond academics, the classrooms foster a sense of community by encouraging communication, teamwork among the students and teachers. As a communal hub, the external learning areas, extended learning areas support creativity. They serve as a quiet refuge for study, a meeting space for group work, and a venue for events that lay the groundwork for lifelong learning and positive social interactions. Previously, we had the estimated construction cost for this project, and at Community Forum number 6, if you attended, this is the information that we shared. Through the different estimates that have been completed, we initially had shared with you. We have re-estimated with the new schematic design with the more detailed information, and that estimated construction cost is $137 million, and that works out to about $835 per square foot. The project is within the budget that we've established from the first 2 phases, and so this is the construction cost, which is the cost for the building and the site work. But what we didn't have last time, which we were still working on with the town, is the project cost. And so the updated project cost for the proposed project is $173,265,626. That works up to about $1,050 per square foot. Again, still within budget, based on the previous estimates that were completed for this project. When we look closer at the projects currently in the feasibility and schematic design phases with the MSBA, the cost per square foot are used to gauge projects with how they're doing versus other projects that are in the queue currently. And we use cost per square foot for construction costs because there's a lot of factors outside of that construction cost that can provide variation, and they're very project specific. So MSBA will typically share the cost estimate ranges for the construction cost on their website. You can find this information, it's public information, but you know, right now the current elementary school projects that are in the same timeline as us are ranging from $673 to $907 per square foot. So the average is around $827 per square foot. And Wilmington is right at that average at $835 per square foot. So I know that was a lot of information, but I'm going to pause there and pass it to, actually, is it in here?
Actually, Justin or Michael or I could speak,
Sure.
community outreach, but could you just caveat that that 173 million is before reimbursement?
Yes, thank you. So let me just go back there. So the numbers that you're seeing on the screen, this is before the MSBA reimbursement. So this is the entire cost for the project, both the building costs and then the additional fees, whether it's the design fees, different contingencies for the project. And the team has worked really hard to make sure that in the environment that we are, there's so many unknowns that we're going into this project with, but building in reasonable contingencies, not to overinflate the project by any means, but definitely to at least be considerate of some of the unknowns that we don't have. But this is all before MSBA reimbursement. And that actually, and I will say that the MSBA will vote on June 18th for this project, and at that time, we will know what the final reimbursement rate is from the MSBA, and from there, we'll have an additional information to share.
But what's their average reimbursement
Yeah.
rate, isn't it 30%?
It ranges all over the map depending on
But
what
they have
county
an
you live in.
They have an average, right?
What's
The average is 30%.
Somewhere between 30 and 80%.
Oh, 30 and 80, okay.
80?
Depends on where you live.
So it's possible it could be 30. Oh,
Probably not.
yeah, I'd say 35.
Oh, sorry.
So we have taken a holistic approach to our community outreach, trying to ensure that we reach our community in every media type possible. So we have the school building committee meetings, we have these community forums. We have had at least 2 water bill inserts. We have probably 1 left to go before we get to the town vote. We have been in Dr. Brand's newsletters, which have been almost monthly, I believe. We have appeared, Dr. Brand appeared in the WCTV Wildcat Corner on behalf of the project. We have been at the Senior Center multiple times. We were at the Fun on the Fourth last year. We will also have a presence this year. And we have a website that's very active and very current. Dr. Brand's assistant is really great at getting that updated for us after every meeting. We do within that district website, that dedicated site for this project, we do have an FAQ up and running. We have had display boards throughout town at, let's see, school open houses, any town vote that we're having, any school event that we're having, we have boards and they are updated with where we are in the process. Townwide communication of all project information has gone out in various aspects. What's also not here is that we have the cartooning, so we have a video series that builds upon every segment of the project. And we have that currently on the town website, and we try and highlight that wherever possible in every community forum or wherever possible. Did I miss anything this one?
Turn it over to the town.
Sure, yeah, so to talk about what's coming up in the fall, or in the late summer. So what a yes vote means at town meeting and the ballot. So there are 2 things that have to happen, 2 scheduled items that are happening in September. On the September 13th, there is a special town meeting regarding the project. And then on September 16th, there is a ballot question regarding the project. So if both of those items are a yes, then the next step is we will execute a project funding agreement with the MSBA for the proposed grant amount. Again, that's the grant amount that we're gonna know officially as of June 18th. And that's the approved project scope and budget, which is that $173 million. There's a document that we filled out that has that broken down in a lot of different categories, but that's the ultimate end game is the $173 million. Then project design starts. So project design starts the minute we enter that agreement with the MSBA, and continues through the bidding of the packages on the project, which will be sometime into the summer, beginning of the fall of next year. And then construction will commence. Fontaine, who is our state at risk, will commence on construction and potentially as soon as the summer of '26 with early release packages. And the elementary school will be open for students in September of 2028. So what an ultimate no vote at town meeting or the ballot means to the project. So if the town determines through no votes at town meeting or on the ballot question that they don't want to approve this project, then the town would be removed from the MSBA program. This would mean that if we wanted to move forward with the MSBA project, we would have to resubmit our statement of interest and get acceptance to the program. Historically, that could be a 5 to 10 year process. We would have to self-fund a feasibility study. So right now, our feasibility study, we have a feasibility study agreement with the MSBA where they're reimbursing us for a significant portion of the feasibility study. We would not be eligible for that reimbursement if we went back for this elementary school project. And then the real issues with the existing elementary schools would continue to be unmet until the town and the district made some determination as to what they were going to do.
So in terms of next steps, as has been mentioned, the June 18th MSBA board meeting will happen, and we will know at that point what the reimbursement rate will be from MSBA. It will be official at that point. We intend to have a community forum number 8 in the late summer, early fall, so we will have sessions like this, as has been noted previously. For voting information, Saturday, September 13th, the special town meeting will start at 9 a.m. It will be here at Wilmington High School. And then on Tuesday, September 16th, the polls will be open from 8 a.m. to 8 p.m. That will be the voting for the debt exclusion vote. Early voting will be available. Same-day voting at the precinct locations will also be available. Next slide, please. You do have the ability to stay connected, as has been mentioned here. You can see that there is a district website, and you can go and reach that at Wilmington Public Schools. There is an actual link for the Wildwood Building Project where you can receive updates. If you'd like to email questions and comments, the Wildwood Project questions at wpsk12.com. The hyperlink is there. There are also several recorded videos and future meetings that will be broadcasted at WCTV. I can tell you that some things of late that have been added up there have been some of the soil testing that people had asked about, some of the traffic study information. So we've gone back to try and get more enhanced reporting that has been posted out there. So please check that website regularly. Certainly you can contact Town Hall. There's been a flurry of activity as of late with several meetings and trying to update documents. So if there's anything that's outstanding that you would wish to have your hands on, please look at the website. And if not, please contact the manager's office or the central office for public schools, and we can try and get that to you. So at this time, I'd like to open it up now, and I'd like to thank the presenters to this moment for all their presentations regarding the project. We want to open it up for question and answers. And there's a lot of people in the room, and I want to try and give everybody an opportunity to speak. So I wanted to just try and set some ground rules that if you can please raise your hand, I'll do my best to try and recognize people. If I can kindly ask that you can either speak from your place or you can rise at your seat. If you can state your name and address for the record. And I'm kindly asking that you keep your question or comments to 2 minutes at length so that we can move around the room and give people an opportunity to speak. And if time permits, we can certainly re-engage with you and allow you more time to speak, but we just want to be cognizant of the time and give everybody an ample opportunity to speak this evening. So at this point, I'll open it up for questions and comments. Yes.
So when I email questions to that email Wildwood project, I never get answers.
So in
So
terms,
I'm just wondering, am I gonna get an answer? Is this
So-
just voicing my concerns? Like,
so if I can just step back and just ask you to just give your name and address for the record.
Karen Kenny, 24 Ballardville Street.
Yes. So in terms of sending it in there, you will get responses. I know that you've sent some information to me directly, for example, and I have acknowledged receipt of that
Right.
information. So certainly, you know, you have stated some of your wishes in terms of things being moved and how you want to see the plan modified. And as I have conveyed back to each message that I received, acknowledging receipt,
Yeah.
that it needs to be under review and discussed in a bigger setting. We're having our committee meeting. We have not had a formal committee meeting since the abutter meeting and this forum to be able to have ample opportunity on our actual meeting that's happening this evening. We will be talking about the abutter meeting, so a lot of decisions need to be made by committee ruling and by vote and discussion. So that feedback has been documented and it's going to be shared with the committee. And as I conveyed to you directly, your requests are received in, but it doesn't guarantee that they can be implemented into the plan. Not because this committee or this town does not want to please you as an abutter. It may not be feasible for the project, it may not be feasible for the design. So I've been very careful to communicate that your comments and questions have been received, but it will take some time and deliberation to adequately answer them.
Yeah. So can you tell me how far away does a road have to be from my property line?
I believe that question was asked previously and was it 10 feet was my understanding?
10 feet from a side property line.
So from my property line, 10 feet, and then the road can start?
But see, then, I asked the same.
Is that the answer? I just want an answer. Is it 10 feet from my property line,
Yeah, the
and then
queuing,
the road starts?
the queuing access line.
10 feet to the, from your property
No,
line to a
just let
driveway.
me just get an answer, please.
Okay.
I just want to be sure. My property line, 10 feet, and there's the road? Is that what you're saying?
Yes.
We were told 16 feet the last abutter meeting.
Correct, I'm saying you asked in
Yeah,
terms of
but
what.
some, if it changed from 16
No,
to
but
10 after the abutters meeting, why didn't anyone?
No, sorry,
let us
but what
know?
I'm saying
No,
is
no,
you
no.
asked what the
No,
code.
I asked a direct question, there's no,
The 16 feet was the distance it is. 10 feet is the
Minimum.
You asked the minimum.
Well,
which is
well,
10.
I was told,
Correct.
I was told the minimum was
16.
15, and we were at 16, so now
Correct.
it just changed.
But with all due respect, sir, she asked what the minimum requirement was, and the answer is 10. The actual
minimum is
plan,
10,
the
okay.
plan is
Is
16.
16, yeah.
Correct.
Okay.
How far does a building have to be from my property line?
Do you know that?
No, the building's further.
Nobody knows.
I think it depends on the front yard setback. We can look up the actual permit off the top of my head. I can't tell you the exact feet, but there's side yard limits, front yard limits, the exact space.
You don't know how far a building has to be from my property line?
From anyone's property line, really.
Or anyone's?
It should be 20. So when we take the site, we created an offset, and from there we had what would be where we should place the building within to stay away from the property line and meet the requirements that are in the bylaws. And so then when we work from there, so I'm pretty sure the 20 feet is from the side property lines.
20 feet from my
From the building.
property line, 20 feet, and there's the building?
It could be.
That's the
not
minimum.
where it is
That's not
right
where
now,
it
that's
is.
the minimum.
Well,
It's certainly much further away. The other part is too, is that, you know, there'll have to be a building permit for this project and it will have to comply with zoning for the area. So the building can't just be arbitrarily placed on a given site. So it would go through the permitting process, the regulatory process, and it wouldn't just be arbitrarily assigned to a given spot on the lot.
how high is the building, do we know? The new school?
Under 35 feet, 3 stories.
135 feet?
Under 35 feet.
The school building is gonna be under 35 feet?
Height-wise.
It's 3 stories.
3 stories.
35 feet? That doesn't even make sense.
Well, it does,
Seems that high.
No. How high is this current school? This room is like 35 feet. Come on. It can't be 35 feet. That's how I can't read.
It doesn't sound like.
From the, stand at the front door, 35 feet, and that's it.
Well, how big is this building? Dennis, do you know?
I don't know, the height from the ground up, I don't know. This is 3 stories.
Yeah, so similar to this height.
Correct.
Yeah, so if you walked out and looked, this is 3-story building that would match the height of the new building for those buildings.
Any other questions or comments? Yes, you can just state your name and address for the record, please.
Catherine D. and Berry Lane. I live in that side of town, obviously not right next to the building, and I drove around the area and I know that the Eaves apartments are right there, and those are relatively large structures. Do you know approximately like how high those are, so I can kind of relate it to like that? Because I also live near like offices and such, and I didn't realize that when I bought the house, because it was foliage, but I have clear view of Universed in the winter, so.
I'm not sure how many stories that
It's at
complex is
least
that you're.
3, but I know residential is different, like height requirements. But I was driving around just to see like what it looks like, because I don't know that area a ton.
I would suspect that they're gonna also be 35 feet and under, because that's kind of the town zoning regulation for height restrictions within that zone.
And then there's the zoning regulations, do they change depending on residential versus like public building or commercial or?
It depends if the area is zoned for residential use versus if it's zoned for commercial use, and they'll be different for each.
Got it, thank you.
Yes, in the back.
Hi, Linda McEwen, 3 Battlefield. I'm just wondering if anybody had been considering possibly, like, 125 is like a single lane road itself. If anybody, is there any talk like maybe widening that road at all, just for the additional traffic?
So in terms from the town's perspective, I know
Yeah.
we've had some internal discussions.
Yeah, so, when we got the traffic study, the town engineer and the town DPW director did a pretty deep dive with niche engineering who did the study. And we're focused on where the traffic study says the concerns are, which is actually be south of the site. So that Salem Street intersection with Middlesex. And so I think, I don't think that the traffic study indicated that was gonna be an issue. The 125 is gonna be an issue, but I think that they were concerned more about this other access to the site.
125 is sufficient for me, because it's practically right inside my front door. It is in my front door, so.
Yeah, I just mean, for purpose of this project, I can certainly talk to the traffic, to the engineer and DPW about it as a holistic thing, but for purpose of this project, they identified that the impact should be coming out from the south as opposed to.
It's gonna be horrible, traffic is gonna be horrible. Yeah, I don't know, how.
Just one second,
Oh,
please, if I
okay.
can just, does that answer your question? Do you have any follow-up
Yes,
question to
thank you.
that?
Yes.
Would anyone else like to ask a question?
Quick question, quick comment.
Yes,
Once you get to 125, is that a state road, not the town road, or is it Belleville to?
Part of it is, but I don't know exactly where the.
it starts at a certain point.
Yeah, I just wasn't sure what that was.
Sorry,
Yeah, Krista Perez, 314 Salem Street. So this is gonna be roughly about 175 million to do this school on the north side. And from what I hear right now is that there's gonna be another duplicate done on the west side, probably at another 175 million. Mid-2030s is what we said.
Yeah, so
We're looking at 350 million in schools within the next 5 to 7 years.
well, again, so the second school, if we move forward with it, if and when we move forward with it, would be mid-2030s, and because, I mean, I can explain in very, very specific detail, right now, we're required by law to pay off what's called our pension. We have an outstanding pension liability, and every municipality in the Commonwealth has a certain amount of time to pay off that outstanding pension liability. Our payment for that outstanding pension liability will be done in the mid-2030s. So if we were to build a school, we could turn around and use that capacity in the general fund to pay for the school debt. So it wouldn't create any extra tax burden on the residents for that second school.
So it's like a free school?
It's like a free school.
I find that really hard.
I'd be glad to sit down and talk to you about it, absolutely.
So basically, we would have been getting a decrease in taxes with the pension thing or whatever.
Or a reallocation of it towards some other, other payments. It's gonna happen for every municipality that pays off their pension debt. And right now, we pay about $10 or $11 million every year to paying down our outstanding pension liability. And once that's paid down, we won't have that amount to pay down any longer. We have a once in a lifetime opportunity to do something like this with those funds. And so we would be able to fund a school on the west side without having to go for a debt exclusion to raise taxes.
Can I ask for that to be like written up and put on the website so that we can understand what you're trying to,
Absolutely.
tell us?
So there have been presentations relative to that, and the manager did give a presentation as part of his budget with the select board, so we can try and pull out some of that information and try and post it onto the website to frame it.
It's not already there.
It's not already there because it was part of the town manager's budget message, and it was part of the presentation at town meeting that happened in May. So the manager has been on the record with other various meetings in front of the finance committee, as well as the joint planning and finance committee, as well as at town meeting, articulating the build plan holistically for the town for the next 50 plus years. That included this conversation as well as a myriad of other projects. So to answer your question, it wasn't specifically on the school building website, but we're happy to try and extrapolate some of that information and post it there as a point of reference to address some of your questions.
Okay, so is there something that will say like what the taxes increase will be with this and then with the next one? And just to show us that there's.
So we are working on a tax calculator option for this project, which is still being developed because we don't know what the MSBA reimbursement level is, so we can't set that up to be able to know what those numbers are gonna look like until we have all of the data points.
Which is a few days away.
June 18th,
Yeah.
so, so certainly within short.
I agree with that one.
Certainly within short time. Regarding using that to talk about a projected building that could be on the west side, in my opinion, professionally, it would be difficult to forecast what the cost of that endeavor is because it's 5 to 7 years from now. And I think it would be difficult to discuss what the price of a building would be that would be built in that time period with any sort of real accuracy. We can handle what we have right now and the data that we know. We are being transparent from a town perspective and letting the residents know that the intention would be to replicate so that that's out there and no one is being disingenuous with the public to indicate that that is a future endeavor that we would like to consider pursuing. Certainly, we need the endorsement of the select board, the school committee, the finance committee, the residents, to be able to do those types of endeavors, and we just felt that it was prudent and practical, and frankly, the right thing to do to let the public know, what the vision statement is from the town manager's office.
Well, the way it was presented here, is that you're building one, building two. So you can't be talking about one without the other. So I would like to have the numbers for whether it's speculation, that's fine.
Well, when we do the tax calculator for this, if you carry your speculation and linear thinking, you could take that same tax calculator and in theory double it and you would have your number.
Yeah, except that's not accurate because there's not gonna be a tax impact.
Correct.
You should put that, I want to see that out so that people can look at it and know what they're signing up for. Not just me doing it personally.
I just add to that like each of these things has to be taken as one project at a time, right? The second project on the west side of town, right, there's an opportunity there to potentially do it within inside the debt exclusion. that project to be able to undertake it that way would also have to be supported by MSBA. So it's one project at a time. MSBA has to agree to accept the project into its pipeline, step one, right? We go through this process that we just explained tonight, and then the voters will have ultimate say, does that project proceed or not in September? When we get to potentially a second project, all those same questions are gonna come back before the community. A, is this something that we're interested in pursuing something on the west side for those 3 elementary schools? Do we wanna submit to get into the MSBA program again, right? Do we wanna fund a feasibility study for that? So there's lots of opportunities for the community to be able to say, when you get to that time and arrive at that time, does this still make sense? Are all those considerations that we talked about when we did this first project, are they still in place for the second? Is it still be able to be operated within the tax levy? All those things can be answered. It is one project at a time, yet at the same time, we've heard lots of questions about 6 elementary schools in town, what's gonna happen with the other 3? So I think it's just to put out an option that we are cognizant of it, and there are avenues to be able to pursue. And in fact, because of your financial position, they could be very beneficial to the community to be able to get a second school at that time if that's what the town wants to do. Does that make sense?
Just to be
I
clear,
think
you're
it
the
all-
architect, right, Lee? Like, you're the architect, not the town, you're not connected to the town to answer these.
I think it also bears repeating, as the manager indicated, that the second school would not require a debt exclusion, would be able to be paid for within the budget.
And that's where I'm back to, I want to see the numbers so I can
Correct.
understand that my taxes aren't gonna change.
And just to,
Just one
just
second.
to,
Just 1 second, please. So I just want to make sure that
Yeah,
did you have any follow-up? Okay.
just to follow
If
up
you
on
could just-
Chris's, Michelle Feeney, 5 Arlene Ave, just to follow up on Chris's comments. We've been asking for a tax calculator since, I think, September on the project. The estimates have been for 30-year debt exclusion, so an extra line item, correct, on our tax bills every year. The estimate was between $750 to $1,000, depending on the value of your home. That's the general estimate, and I think that was based on the 200 million, give or take what your home is valued. I think that's what you're asking, but we've been asking since September. I don't think it's necessary to wait for the MSBA to start the process of the calculator. At that point, it's just plug and play. You put the numbers in, and then the calculator should work. So if anything, I would hope that it'd be up on the site and just ready to go June 18th at midnight when they have that announcement, correct?
We're working on it.
Okay, and that wasn't my question. I had a question. I was curious, I know that in the schematic, it has a 12,000 square foot gym, which I believe MSBA only pays for 6,000 square feet. By comparison, I did do the tours at the Rubin Street and the North. I wasn't able to get an answer. What size are those gyms currently at the Rubin Street and the North Intermediate?
They're less than 5,000 square feet, but do you have the specific?
So the Woburn Street, that one is about 3,700 square feet, and the North Intermediate Gymnasium is about 48.
48. And what is the high school?
The high school is a 12,000 square foot gymnasium.
That was my question. Oh, and one more comment I want to make. I know that in Eric's presentation, he mentioned that once the MSBA fails, that's it. But that's actually not true. Since 2010, 14 projects that failed the town vote, 10 of them went back because the process is the committee needs to put a report back to the MSBA as to why it failed, and then they have 10 days to reconsider a different schematic in the project. So I think it's a little, we need to be clear about that.
And again, I was talking about was an ultimate no. The town ultimately votes no on the project, that's what happens.
But I just think it's important for everyone to know if this fails, the committee has to put a report together, and since 2010, 14 towns that failed the vote, they were able to go back and work with the town in that area, for 10 to come back and do it, that's what they came back with, so it's not
time
an
frame of
all.
that? You're
Yeah,
quoting that
within 10
you're
days,
saying, but-
within 10 days.
No, to be readmitted into the program?
No, he's talking about a total readmission. I'm talking about they have to send a report, and within 10 days, the MSBA will get back with whether or not they'll consider a different design.
Correct, but you'd still have to go back into the program.
It's not from start though, and that's what I think was a little misleading. And there's a whole chart. I mean, I went to the MSBA and I was able to find more than 14 projects, that failed, and then they ended up going forward with a different schematic where the town agreed to, the residents agreed to it. So I wanted, please do your research, I'll send it if anyone wants it, but it's on the MSBA site.
Any other questions or comments?
Yes. 300 R Salem Street. So you identified a traffic problem around the Middlesex Salem Street, and we don't know any solution for that problem at this point, other than someone floated out the idea of a rotary, which has never worked anywhere. So why are we worrying about the traffic?
Yeah, so the transportation engineer and our engineer and the DPW director, like I said, we're working with the transportation consultant who has a lot of different ideas about different things they could do with that site. A rotary was one of the ideas.
What else?
I don't know the specifics of the traffic study.
Know that.
Yeah, the traffic study, I believe, is on the website, so, and includes their kind of recommendations for how to reduce those traffic impacts. I don't know specifically what
The
they.
website's not easy to follow. It's like a minefield. You can't, it's bad.
So
And
that-
I work on a computer every day, so.
But so
Not like I'm
to
not.
address your question, in terms of that information with the traffic study coming back, it had a whole host of information. It's a very intense, deep dive document. That is a preliminary report that if this were to go forward, the town would have the time to go through and do other mitigating efforts to try and deal with traffic. There's a certain amount of mitigation that can be done through this project and through this scope and with this funding, and then there would be additional mitigation that would need to take place in that area that would be on the town. So the report's back, the engineering department, Department of Public Works, the town manager's office, we are working with Dorn Whittier and with the consultants to look at that deeper. When these reports come in, it takes time to kind of peel back the onion and get to solutions and talk about viable options, see how expensive they will be. I can tell you that the town will need to take some steps to address it, but we're not prepared to give concrete plans out in this particular session. Some things have to take time to develop and have to be worked out. So there are definitely, I'm sorry?
I'm sorry, maybe they should wait until that's figured out. It's gonna impact people that live there.
Yeah, that's a voting point, that's.
Yeah, taxes too.
Point, that's
Come
a
on, guys.
voting point, you make a decision.
So, no, and I understand that. I'm hearing the concerns about the traffic. What I would just kindly ask is that when someone's speaking, that we just have one person speaking. So if you'd like to ask a question or make a comment, certainly you can do that, but I want to give everybody an opportunity to speak. Anyone else in the room? Yes, sir.
Thank you, Ms. O'Connell. Joe Maselli, 25 North Street. I just want to go back to the tax calculator question. I guess I was a little confused about that. So it makes sense, once we know the MSBA reimbursement rate, then to put the tax calculator on the website or whatever, right?
Yeah, so that's, the plan all along has been to, once we get the number, to put the tax calculator. It's actually a little bit more nuanced than that, because I know we've had lots of questions and lots of conversations from the select board and the finance committee and from the public as to whether or not the town is going to put funding into it out of either free cash or capital stabilization. And so that decision would obviously impact the tax impact. So if the town did say, put some of our money from capital stabilization to pay down the debt, that would reduce the tax impacts for folks.
Right. Okay, yeah, that makes sense, because it wouldn't make sense to have a tax calculator if we don't know what the reimbursement rate is until June 18th. I was actually Reading had a tax calculator for their school building project that just got passed like 2 weeks ago, and that they obviously had to wait for any free cash, CapEx, and MSBA funding to come through. So there's no reason to have the tax calculator if we don't know what that reimbursement is going to be. But I do appreciate the transparency and all that for every taxpayer. So
Yeah, I appreciate that comment and just, bring that forward. I want to be clear, we have been talking for several years about the idea of building a school, and we have talked about the fact that it's going to come at a cost, and we've talked about the fact that it's going to come with a tax impact. It's a measured response in every public meeting that you have, that you want to give information that's credible and factual, but if you commit too soon and things change, you get criticized for making changes. If you release things too soon and then they suddenly become not accurate, then depending on where you sit on the project, it can be viewed as misleading, or perhaps you're giving out false information. So we're trying to give you the best information that we have at the time, and we think it's prudent to wait till we have all the facts and figures to deliver out one model that's credible and factual, and people can internalize that information for what it means to them and what it means for their family, what it means for their budget, how they'd like to see Wilmington move forward with public schools. This is a very personal decision, and we respect that, and we understand that not everybody in the room is gonna see every issue the same way, whether it's the tax obligation, being in a butter, having traffic impact. We recognize that. We understand that this is a big endeavor for the town, and we're trying to work through it in a very systematic, methodical way, and we're trying to take in the feedback, make the changes and enhancements that we can to keep up with the project as diligently as we can. And we are trying to work with the residents and come forth with a project that's credible, that's valuable, and people believe in and they want to see come to fruition. So we are committed to that. Yes, Ms. Maselli.
Gonzalez, 25 North Street. I just wanted to go back to the Middlesex Salem Street question. If there's an issue there, I'm right now assuming that, let's just say it does pass, that whatever needs to be fixed in that area would be fixed in tandem before the school would open.
That has been what the discussions have been.
Thank you.
In terms of facts, figures, and plans, they have not been
Correct.
crafted to the fullest extent that we can go on the record and say, these are the things that we're doing, and this is what the cost is.
Right, we don't know.
The other part too is that we need to seek funding sources to do these things. So, we can't just take a piece of paper and say we're gonna do all these things, because we need to work with select board, we need to work with finance committee, we need to work with the residents at town meeting through appropriations. This is a municipal spend for everything that we do. Back to the manager's comment even about the cost of the project. He has some very creative ideas that he wants to bring forward to the select board, to the finance committee, to the school committee, and to the community at large as a way to try and reduce this cost. He needs to seek the support from the bodies and committees that he reports to before he can commit to that in a public setting. That's why on the horizon, which will be talked about later this evening, is that the intent is to have a tri-board meeting to be able to put everybody in the same room. Then we'll have the June 18th information, and then the manager can articulate the plan in a very systematic way and speak to the key stakeholders that would need to vote those ideas to be able to bring them forward to the greater public audience.
Yeah, I just didn't want anybody having the impression that if the school was being built, that that intersection was gonna be like it is today. It would be, obviously, if the school moves forward, that intersection will be taken care of to support.
That is the intent.
Thank you.
And just to follow up a little bit on that, I have already reached out to our delegation about earmarks to see if we can get some state funding to help us work on any kind of traffic impact.
Yes, sir, in the back.
Take off my hat and put on my other hat.
Sure. If you could just state your name and address for the record, please.
I'm Joe Valero, I live at 300 Salem Street, the capital of Fort House. I haven't looked at your road study, your traffic study or anything. Is the roadway that's being discussed going to replace the front of my house where the roadway splits and one way goes to the intermediate, the other one goes downstairs?
Yeah,
That
so,
is the area.
yeah, it's the location. I believe Paul Looney's already done some preliminary evaluations and doesn't believe that anything that would need to happen would be outside of the existing right of way.
Sorry, could you repeat that?
Paul Looney, who's our town engineer, has done some preliminary evaluations of the space that we have at that intersection and believes that we're gonna be able to accommodate the changes within the existing right of way. So it's not gonna impact anybody. We hope it's not gonna impact anybody's property.
Egress and entrance onto my property is going to have to be affected if you change the road, because right now I have to go around the small end of the island to get to my driveway. So if you alter the configuration, it will affect my ability to get in and out of my driveway to accommodate the traffic that's going to be. Has that been taken into consideration by Cartway?
Well, again, so that we're at a very, 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 very preliminary part of the traffic portion of this. But your house was one that Paul specifically noted as being of concern to make sure that the impacts to that property were minimized.
And I have a follow-up.
Yes, sir.
What's the plan for construction vehicles? When you did the big dig 10 or 15 years ago, and construction vehicles went by my house. As you know, my house is 300 years old. I was chasing ceiling cracks and wall cracks the whole time the trucks were going up and down Salem Street to get to the big dig. What's the accommodation going to be for construction vehicles over the 2 years of the projects? What do you think?
So I haven't introduced myself yet. I'm Mark Abdella. I'm the Vice President of Construction Management with Fontaine Brothers. We're the construction manager on the job. We're a family-owned, fourth generation. We've been building schools in Massachusetts for almost 100 years. Every community you can think of, every type of school site that you can think of. So the question you're asking is a good one. It's something we deal with on every project. We will have a traffic plan that will be dictated in our bid documents to subcontractors. Their routes in and out of town will be dictated by contract. We will more than likely be finding off-site parking for the majority of the trades working on the site, given that the school needs to stay occupied and active. And I can't give you the specifics of what it will be because we're about a year away from needing to do it. But I can tell you that we do it all day, every day, and it will be contractually binding for our subcontractors.
Will that be posted on your website? Can you finally have a plan?
We could certainly post for the public's information where we're dictating construction traffic, for sure. I mean, you didn't ask us, but I'm gonna say it anyways. I mean, we literally, if you think about particularly elementary schools in the state of Massachusetts, a large boom of them were built in the 50s and 60s in neighborhood settings. A large swath of them are now currently being replaced 70 plus years later. So we are working in residential neighborhoods all over the state where you have folks that live in these neighborhoods who are worried about trade workers parking on their street, cutting through their backyards, where's the traffic coming from, steel, concrete, soils, all those sorts of things. We successfully manage those activities all day, every day, all over the state of Massachusetts with very high levels of client satisfaction. And when folks have questions, they call me on this phone, and I will give you that number. If there's a problem, you call me.
If you're driving big trucks carrying heavy equipment and inventory,
Yeah.
you're gonna damage my house if you drive by the house.
I hear exactly what you're saying, and we will plan that for that, okay? We'll talk more, Joy, I promise.
Thank you. So I did see a hand over here.
Thank you very much. Nicholas Golden, 453 Shawshene Avenue. I also have the pleasure of serving on the school building committee, but I just thought I'd make a quick comment. There's one kind of set of voices that is not in this room to kind of have a say here, and that's the kids. And I know it's kind of a bleeding heart thing to be like, oh, the kids, but you know, if you tour these schools, and a couple of us have toured these schools recently, there are kids getting education in closets. There are students with special needs getting education in dark locker rooms, converted locker rooms. There are students who are having really intimate psychological conversations with their counselors in rooms they share with 5 other staff members. So you're overhearing some kid saying, you know, they didn't get to sleep last night because they couldn't eat, and they're embarrassed because they're saying that, and their classmate is in the other stall because there's not enough room in that room because the school isn't modern or sufficient. You know, if there was some more building school next to my house, I'd be pissed. I'd be pissed, you know? It's a gigantic, I totally get it. But to me, you know, this is a really transformational opportunity, not just for our community's financial future, but for the students. We know, the research has shown us that they lose a significant portion of educational attainment when they go building to building. Because they're nervous, you know, they're little, they're 8 years old, 5 years old, they're going to a whole new building. That's really hard. That's hard on them. For the teachers, for the staff, for the kids, I think, yes, we need to get the numbers right, and the folks here have worked their butts off. I got appointed to this committee last year, so I wasn't here when this all started. But they worked their butts off, and for you, for the taxpayers, all of us are focused on getting the best deal possible. Because in the long term, you know, financially, it matters to pay for the kids, to pay for all of you. So I just hope that, you know, they don't have a vote, they don't have a voice, but for future generations of those students, especially the students with special needs, especially with those with disabilities, these buildings don't cut it. And I know folks will say, a lot of students have gone through and they did fine, but I knocked on the door of a parent Sunday to talk about this project, and she talked about how at one of the schools, named was Woburn, or North, she had to go in herself and help her child get up the stairs because there was no elevator. You know, again, bleeding heart, it's a moral appeal, emotional appeal, it's not logical, but I hope we just don't forget those kids because they don't have a voice in this room with us. So, thanks.
So I have time for one more question or comment.
I can never get my
I
comments
know.
in. Well, I just want to mention that everyone here, contrary to Mr. Golden's comment, is for new schools. We all are. I don't know anyone here, the abutters especially, that aren't for new schools. So let's just table that and get that misconception cleared up. What I'd like to ask is, I keep hearing we've had 63 meetings. Before the vote, how many abutters meetings did you reach out to with a certified letter? 0. You had all of those meetings. You had 3 locations, and yet you waited until January after the October 8th vote to send a certified letter to just 22 abutters whose homes these will affect. You did not take any of that input into consideration, and I want to make that very clear. We keep talking about community outreach. I didn't even see or have the respect to have an abutters meeting listed for community outreach. So I just want to be clear, no one reached out to us before January to make sure that each of those neighborhoods were impacted. Now, I can honestly say if you had reached out to the folks, not just in the North Intermediate, but the folks that surround the Wildwood School and the folks that surround the Woburn Street School, you would have had a lot more input had you sent directed and certified letters. So now we're at this point where the project keeps moving forward, where people are papering on Memorial Day, pushing the project.
Yeah, that's disrespectful.
I mean, listen.
Who decided that?
Someone
On Memorial
decided
Day?
to push the we've been told that the project's not getting pushed, but yet we saw
Maybe
it. So I just want to mention that. No abutter was reached out to directly until January for a meeting. That's it, certified
Correct.
letter, so.
So in terms of the certified letters, it went out to over 32 residents and we
I
sent
have
them.
22, Judy, so 22.
Yeah, so.
I got the list.
So in terms of the letters, there were letters that went out, there were certified letters that went out, and there were 2 abutter meetings. There were a host, all of the meetings up to this point have been public and anyone could attend whether you were an abutter or you were a community member. And in addition, this is the 7th community forum. There have been several outreach opportunities that have happened, and I understand that regardless of the outreach, there will be people that will be dissatisfied with the communication. The effort is there. The committee holistically with 23 people, 22 people have worked on it. I've joined the project within the last year. I haven't been here from the beginning. I know all the work that's been done, it's been documented. I understand that it may fall short of people's expectations and there's still more work to be done. And there's still more communication to be done. We're communicating with you now. We've communicated with you previously. And we continue to.
And when will early voting start? Do we know that yet?
No, don't know that.
Is there an estimate that you're looking target date?
So the reason why we don't have a start date is because the town clerk cannot order the ballots until we have the ballot question. The ballot question, we're waiting for the language to be sent to us from the MSBA. Once the MSBA sends it to us, we have our town council look over it, and then the select board will vote to authorize the ballot question. Only then can the ballots be ordered. So the town clerk was loath to set a specific date because she can't order the ballots now. So as soon as we have that language, we can order the ballots, then we'll know the date certain as to when those will order, and I'll make sure that we broadcast those dates as loudly as we can.
And do you intend, it sounded like earlier you mentioned you were going to take money from other areas to kind of make that 175 plus the MSBA number go down. Is that a possibility?
So that's been something that we have talked about, which is, and it's been asked at public forums before as to whether or not the town is going to spend either free cash or certificate, or, capital stabilization to basically buy down the debt. We did it with the town hall project, we did it with the senior center project. So it's consistent with how the town has done with these large projects before. It's not a decision that I would make unilaterally, obviously. So at the tri-board meeting with the FinCom and the select board and the school committee, we'll have that conversation, and ultimately that will be part of a determination by the select board is to then putting the warrant article on to use that money to pay down the debt. And then that would eventually be a vote of the town meeting to make that determination.
So one other follow-up that I would like to say, and I've said this even in the abutters meeting, but I think it bears repeating with this audience. The intent of doing the abutters meeting with the direct abutters that touch the four corners of the lot was to give you your own intimate setting to have a lot of Q&A. The last abutters meeting, we had a whole presentation. We didn't even get through 2 or 3 slides, and we opened up the room and we talked for well over an hour. It went almost an hour and 15 minutes in terms of giving the opportunity. And we wanted to give you an exact setting to have the immediate people that would be touching the site to have your own one-on-one meeting. And I said that to you then, and I'm saying it to you again now. If we didn't do that, we would have been criticized for not doing that. We have created so many public meetings and so many opportunities. Town hall is open Monday through Friday. Email addresses are open. Select board meetings are open. School committee meetings are open. Town meeting is open. This committee is carrying forward the will of what town meeting voted in. They wanted to assemble a committee. They wanted us to take these actions were voted on from prior town meetings. So we're trying to have those one-on-ones with people that touch the corners of the lot, and then have community forums such as this, have other future, building committee meetings. We're having one right after this, which many of the committee members are here, and we're actually having that late so that we could allow even more time, almost an hour and a half when this was scheduled for an hour, to try and connect with the public. So I understand that in the court of public opinion, it may fall short in some people's minds and opinions, but we are trying to make an effort to partner with the public. And I'll take one last question, and you will be the last for the evening.
Thank you. Haley Stewart, 136 Middlesex. Particularly to the abutters, so I am a stone's throw that way. So I am a abutter to our latest project. So I am an abutter to both the town hall and the school parking lot. So I really deeply understand all of the conversations you're having at your dinner table, the thoughts that are running through your head, the idea of I'm in an 1850s house, the idea of the construction vehicles that pass every morning, and that concern around those fences, and I hear that, and I know that feeling. And we're living it right now. They have done a phenomenal job of being accessible and being us able to vocalize all throughout construction as well. These are our concerns of what had happened, if vehicles, like any concerns that we have. And so I know that feeling. I also have been on those, went on those tours and have seen those schools and know that if this does not pass and we have to, all those schools need to be renovated or rebuilt. If that happens and we don't pass this with the MSBA money, it will be astronomically more expensive and have a much higher impact. I know, Michelle, you can roll your eyes all you want.
I'm not rolling them, I'm shaking my head because we do need new schools, we established that.
Just give an opportunity.
No,
You have so much time to talk, and then the rest of us don't have any points.
I'd like to
I have not said one word, I would love to say.
All right, then, don't say any more.
Ladies and gentlemen,
No, you're louder than I am before I even open my mouth.
we bring our comments back and just let the
I have a
speaker,
question.
yes.
Thank you. So those tours, it was a really small group of people who got to go on those over the last few weeks. Are we doing a video to show just how much those schools need attention and what our teachers, principals, students, and parents are dealing with right now with each of those schools?
We all get that, and he just said that.
With all
He
due
didn't
respect,
need to
I'm asking you
repeat.
to please refrain from speaking.
I asked a question. I just asked.
No, you commented for 10 minutes. He already said what he wanted to
I'm trying
say,
to ask
and that
you
was
to
the
please
same thing that
refrain
you're
from
saying now.
speaking.
We don't need to hear it again. We understand
Karen,
that.
I'm asking you
There's
to
a
please
lot of,
refrain from speaking.
there's a lot of minuses that you don't realize. Have a building 20 feet from your house. Have a pickup line 10 feet from your house.
Karen, I am asking you to
A
please
pickup
refrain
line?
from
Okay.
speaking.
I have high schoolers.
And
Ladies.
3 schools in that pickup line.
At this point, I'm
I've lived through
adjourn
all of
the
it.
meeting
I
at this
lived through
point.
it in Reading.
Can we ask?
They say it's 1 year construction, it's 3 years.
Answer my question.
Yes, so in terms of the video piece, we will certainly take that under advisement and we will give it its utmost consideration. So I want to end things on a positive note and just say thank you very much for people that have taken the time to come out to the community forum. As you can see, there'll be ongoing discussions The Q&A will still unfold. We will still, if people want to engage, you can certainly contact Town Hall. We can set up a meeting. We will have other community forums. We also will be having the school building committee meeting that will happen right now after this, so people are certainly welcome to stay for that as well. So
Excuse me.
once again, thank you very
No,
much.
that's not fair for him to say 35 feet.
Yeah, with all-
No, you can, you can